Several United States airports, several American airports have made big improvements recently, making travel more enjoyable for flyers. Last month, the Biden administration announced nearly $1 billion in airport funding to meet surging travel demand for the busy spring and summer seasons. Joining us now is Alex Fitzpatrick. He is the editor of What's Next at Axios. Good morning, Alex. Good to see you.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on.
So what are some of the airports around the country making as far what
kind of changes are they making? Because when I think of the money coming from the government, I think of basically safety changes. But you're talking about something more than safety, right?
Yeah, this is sort of front-end passenger experience stuff. We're talking about airy new terminals, cool water features, bigger and better bathrooms, more chargers, better seats. Just an overall better experience when you're stuck at the airport for an hour, 2 hours, waiting for your flight to board.
All of that stuff sounds good, but I mean, think about the things that irritate you about going to the airport. Everything irritates you, really.
Everything. I find that American airports are just places where the minute you step into them, right. I get depressed. Because they are, there's the crumbling infrastructure, the lack of anything really exciting in terms of, you have to get there many hours in advance of a flight. In New York City, it takes you 2 hours to get to JFK, and then you got to be there 2 hours before your flight. So you're talking minimum 4 to 5 hours before you actually even board the plane. Yeah. And, you think they could make it a little more entertaining? Well, I will say, and you can confirm that there's been significant inroads made at New York City airports where they look much better than they did 4 or 5 years ago. But you still go to an airport like Salt Lake City or San Francisco, and you find that, wow, you're missing out a lot.
Well, that's true. And what I will say, though, that I have noticed over the past several years are things to make it easier for people who aren't just a regular traveler, right? You're seeing those like places for moms to maybe breastfeed. It's probably part of the law, but what are some of the changes that you've seen to accommodate travelers with different needs?
Yeah, there's the lactation pods and rooms that you mentioned there. There's also, I think one really cool example is Kansas City International Airport. They just did a bunch of big upgrades. One of the, I think, most interesting and unique things that they did was they've installed this sort of flight experience center where basically they have a cross-section of a real airliner that you can go on and board before your actual flight and basically get a taste for, here is what the boarding process is going to be, and here's what the sort of flight process is going to be. And that's for anybody who's ranging from people who are just a little bit nervous about flying to maybe people who are neurodivergent, maybe have autism and just want to get to that comfort level before they get on their actual flight, which for a lot of people can be a pretty scary thing.
So to Vlad's point, I mean, Vlad was comparing New York City airports to some of the other airports that we see.
Like Salt Lake City is beautiful.
Salt Lake City is beautiful, yeah.
Why can't they all be like that?
Why can't they all be like Singapore?
Or Singapore.
It's a great question. I mean, the sort of best airports in the world, just from a pure sort of beauty and architecture standpoint, they are, abroad for the most part. That being said, I think U.S. airports are catching up. In New York, for instance, I think the big story is LaGuardia has gotten really, really nice. Terminals B and C now are just sort of spectacular and really where they should be for, the sort of level of city that New York is. I think LaGuardia is starting to represent that. And even Newark has a nice new terminal over in Jersey, which I think is considered a New York City airport by all means. So there are big improvements going on in and around the Big Apple for sure.
Alex, what is in it though for the airports? Because it's a major financial investment. I live in Philadelphia. There's one Philly airport. That's the one I got to fly out of if that's where the good flight is. They don't really have to upgrade because I don't have a choice. Why? I mean, is there competition among airports?
There is in some places. New York, for instance, you've got LaGuardia, JFK, and Newark, and for a lot of people, depending on which airline you favor and which part of the city you're in, you do have some choice there. So there is some competition among them to sort of get passengers, and it's also it's partially it's the airlines too. They've got their hub airports where they work with them to make these big investments because they realize that. The passenger experience for a passenger doesn't start when they get on the plane. It starts when they get to the airport, to your point earlier, right? So to have a good experience right from security on through, makes the whole entire experience better for passengers.
I think it's, part of it, guys, as you probably know, is that the golden age of the airport and air travel was in the post-World War II era when
we all got
the rest of the world was
fedoras and suits on.
But also the rest of the world was decimated, and people were coming to the United States, and you could showcase. This is the first thing that you see when you arrive in the United States of America is this pristine, beautiful, architectural, majestic airport that shows you the might and supremacy of the United States.
Yeah.
Everybody else has caught up with us, and so that's why we've left. What looked cool in 1960 at JFK looks to the Singaporeans and to people in Hong Kong and in Dubai like what a joke.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Alex Fitzpatrick, thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for having me on.